Paramedic in Marion County is no longer allowed to practice in the state after accusations he falsified nearly 50 medical reports.
TV 20's Emma DeLamo tells us how officials with Marion County Fire Rescue handled the investigation.
The Florida Department of Health has pulled a former Marion County paramedic's license. They say Roberto Garcia falsified 46 medical reports by fabricating patient heart and breathing readings between November 2019 and June 2021. That's when MCFR staff did a quality assurance check and noticed something was wrong. Garcia resigned from his job the next month. MCSR officials say once they noticed some inconsistencies in Garcia's reporting, that's when they notified the Florida Department of Health.
Once that happened, they did a deep dive into all of his reports and transports that he did and noticed that there were several inconsistencies in the reporting.
The documents say Garcia failed to request a hearing, which waives his rights to challenge the allegations against him. Therefore, it's unclear as to why he falsified reports.
They can look at it and say, okay, this isn't one that, we have to investigate, but they investigated this case with Mr. Garcia, so they then did their investigation and revoked his paramedic license.
One Marion County resident tells me he was surprised by Garcia's actions.
Lying is no good, and especially if he's an authority figure like he is with the paramedics and then lying about things that aren't true. He should have been terminated, gone.
More than 2 years later, the state finally revoked Garcia's paramedic license on Wednesday, charging him nearly $900 for the cost of the investigation. In Ocala, Emma DeLamo, TV 20 News.